right. Well, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time from your night, your evening, your dinner, pausing Netflix perhaps, to join us. This is going to be a great and exciting and informative session. Get in the game with serve tennis. My name is Jocelyn Cruz Alfala, Director of Schools and Community Tennis. In tonight's session, we're going to cover mainly serve tennis and what the features are. From a shortened version in a statement, it's a flexible digital tool to help you manage your tennis business. And we'll dive into that a bit more in our session. And then in order to give you a perspective on what serve tennis is and how it's utilized, we have some great innovative guest speakers joining us this evening, and they'll be able to give you that perspective of their use in serve tennis. And before I introduce our guests, I'd like to just remind you that we do have our chat available. Please prepare your questions for our guest speakers and our panelists, and this way we can address them in the chat. Now, to go over our brief introductions, we're happy to have Kelly Rosero with us, joining us from our neighboring section in the Middle States, Delaware area. She's also a tennis service representative, and she assists with programs in that area. Additionally, we're excited to have Gordon Panic. He's a tennis director and organizer, and he runs the Summer Tennis Classic Events, which is a nonprofit organization in our western region of the Eastern section. And then we also are thrilled to have Larry Dillon, who's an avid tennis advocate, volunteer, supporter of tennis in the Eastern section, and is in the New Jersey region for our USTA Eastern section. And he wears many hats, and he'll dive into that a bit later as well. And this evening isn't without said, with our support from our national colleagues who help us in the support of serve tennis in many aspects. And then we'll provide the informational tidbits that are all helpful for you guys to get into serve tennis and understand what it's about. So we have Kathy Myers joining us. She is a USTA manager for technical services. And then Matt Barnhart, who is the USTA senior manager for team competition. And without further ado, I'm actually just going to hand it off to Matt because there's so much information that we can dive right into for serve tennis. So take it away. Thanks, Matt.
Excellent. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Just double checking.
Here.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Jocelyn, for that introduction. And thank you to Jenny, Jocelyn, and the whole Eastern staff for inviting myself and Kathy to be with you tonight. To be honest, we're more excited about getting to Kelly, Gordon, and Larry. So hopefully the overview doesn't take too long, but we kind of wanted to give you an idea and taste of where serve tennis is today and what we're looking at doing with the platform tomorrow and in the coming months and years. So we're really excited about sharing that. It will be a basic overview, but again, what we're more excited about sharing with you is what Gordon, Larry, and Kelly have to share as far as them being hands-on with it as providers. So with that, I'm going to get started just with the overview. What I like to start with is just kind of sharing, and there's no better way of saying it than just an elevator pitch of what serve tennis is and how we want to position it, especially with you on the ground running tennis programming, interacting with your customers on a daily basis, whether it's, it used to be in person more often, now it's more virtual, but whether it's through email, through sending out links to sign up for things. Basically, we want your customers to know and your stakeholders in tennis to know what you're offering there in Eastern. So the first thing is simply that we want serve tennis to simplify your business. And one thing you'll hopefully see throughout this overview of serve tennis is that the focus is actually not on USTA business things. In other words, we have our programs, junior team tennis, adult leagues, tournaments, and that still is a focus of USTA and very important to us. But what's actually more important, and it always has been, but we haven't matched up the technology to support this claim, is that what you're doing and what you're providing outside of USTA is more important than our products. So first and foremost, just we want to simplify things for you. So we want to help you market yourself, manage your programs, book your courts if you have courts, sell club memberships if you have a facility or a club, And we want to help you do that all in one place. So right now, if you, let's say, are part of a facility or an organization, you may have 3 or 4 or 5 different technology platforms that helps do all of those things. Our hope is that Serve Tennis can do all of that for you. So over time, especially if you have contracts with certain technology companies, that you can start to bring those things onto Serve Tennis to help you sell yourself and or your organization or facility. The second thing is, and I'll go into a little more detail here in a bit, but we really feel like Serve Tennis has really competitive pricing. In other words, all of the services on Serve Tennis are free and no cost to you unless you start charging for what you're offering through Serve Tennis. So again, we'll go into a little bit more detail here in a bit, but just know we really do feel like Serve Tennis is very competitive compared to other similar products out in the market. And then finally, you can literally get started today. And you'll hear from Kelly, Gordon, and Larry later that it didn't take long for them to get onboarded. Creating their account, linking to their organization, maybe creating their website, posting a program that they're offering. It really doesn't take that long to get started. And most importantly, we're all here to help. And by all, I mean it's a full team of Eastern staff, USTA National staff, our partners that are helping build Serve Tennis, our customer care team. There are a ton of people that are willing to help you get started and also get you through your journey of selling yourself and promoting what you offer in your community. So you can see what's highlighted there in the little darker blue. Everything in one place, keep it no cost or low cost, and really getting started today is easy, and we're certainly here to help. So to give you a little picture of what's available today, and again, that's really what Kelly, Gordon, Larry here in a bit are going to share with you how they're utilizing Serve Tennis. So they're going to give you real life examples, but in a nutshell, just wanted to share that Serve Tennis is a basic registration system. And outside of those things you see there listed at the bottom, which includes USTA products like Team Challenge and Junior Circuit, this registration system really is focused on you all. So the lessons that you offer, the clinics, the camps, any non-USTA programming, social leagues, non-USTA tournaments, this system was built with you in mind. And that's really something that makes Serve Tennis stand out from Tennis Link and TDM, is that Tennis Link and TDM were built around USTA products, which again, I'm gonna make sure I emphasize this tonight, Serve Tennis is built around you and what you need as far as registering junior and adult players into your lessons, clinics, camps, and programming. The second thing is just basic business operations. So booking your courts, selling your memberships, collecting all your contacts in one area and being able to communicate out to them and segment them out into specific groups. And being able to, if you have a team of people at your facility or organization, being able to have an administrator or team management. In other words, it doesn't just have to be you that's able to update your website or add programming or contact people. You can have 3, 4, 10, 20 people that you work with be able to have specific roles with your account and with your organization through Serve Tennis. So that's a really exciting piece with the business operations side. And then lastly, the marketing part of it. So in other words, I've referenced website, I've referenced being able to contact your, your contacts through the system, putting your programs and everything you offer on a national search, as well as section level and Eastern and even local searches. So again, those are the 3 main buckets. If we, drill it all down to the basic foundation of what Serve Tennis is, being able to be a registration platform, operate your business, and market what you offer in your communities. Now, the other big piece of that, because I didn't reference a lot of things about tournaments, adult leagues, and JTT, is that yes, over time, we are going to replace Tennis Link with Serve Tennis functionality. So what that's going to look like in a very basic sense is you will be able to manage your tournaments on Serve Tennis through the platform. And that launched actually January 1st. So we're going into our 5th weekend of running junior and adult tournaments, USTA tournaments through the Serve Tennis platform. So you have your registration, be able to select your players, draw creation, scheduling, all the things that you're able to do in TDM. Over time, you'll be able to do and more in Serve Tennis. And that's for adult, junior, and wheelchair. Also, the other big piece of this too is we have some of this now on Tennis Link with the adult side and junior side with youth progression profiles, but being able to track player activity specifically for juniors to start, and then obviously we'll follow with the adult side, but to be able to more effectively track your own progress or your child's progress or the players that are in your programs progress. And that's through a basic profile specific to juniors, what ball color they're in, what events they've played in, or what they should sign up for. and as well as the results of those events that they've participated in. So that's a really exciting piece that we're going to build out over the next couple of months to really enhance the customer experience within Serve Tennis, much more than we've ever had in TennisLink. And then lastly, the big one, if all this isn't big enough, the big one is managing leagues. So obviously the big one being adult leagues, of course, junior team tennis on the junior side. We also have flex leagues, social leagues, all of that being put into Serve Tennis over the next year or two. Similar to tournaments, being able to register, integrating NTRP, which is a big piece of that, scheduling, score entry reporting, et cetera. And like I said, that's for adults and juniors. And that's really just the high level stuff. There are some very specific add-ons that are really catching up with the times as it pertains to technology. And one of those things I just added there at the bottom, which is something as simple as in the COVID time that we're in now, is really, really helpful, is remote check-in, remote self-check-in for the players, whether it's using something like a QR code or using the player app. But instead of having to have a tournament desk where people come up or having them email you or text or anything, just be able to simply check in for programming and tournaments with that remote self check-in. So again, I am not going into detail. There's a ton behind all of these things, both the things that are available today in Serve Tennis and what's coming with how we're replacing TennisLink. But just do know this goes back to that elevator pitch of, we're trying to put everything in one place. That's a very daunting task. There was no way that we could create it all and then flip a switch and then have it all be ready. We are kind of drip feeding this functionality and this experience for you as a provider, over time. But there's a lot there that can be used today. And again, once we get to Kelly, Gordon, and Larry, they'll be able to share their experiences thus far. I did want to highlight, because I think this is really important since I referenced it earlier, was the pricing. If you're familiar with TennisLink today, whether you run tournaments or JTT or adult leagues through it, there is a transaction fee of 7.5% plus 50 cents. In some cases, it's a $4 TennisLink fee, and you have different ways of whether it's the customer feeling nickel and dimed or you as a provider feeling nickel and dimed. Just know that when we launched Serve Tennis, we wanted to make sure that the pricing was as simple as possible. And as mentioned earlier, it was very competitive. So not only is our pricing of the 3.5% plus 50 cents on transactions competitive, out in the market, it's very competitive with ourselves. We're cutting in half, less than half of what we charged before. So to kind of put this simply, hopefully, the basic tools in Serve Tennis that I've referenced, if you're not charging for things like programming, tournaments, leagues, membership, court booking, if there's no charge, there's no cost. In other words, if you want to offer a free program on Saturdays, if you want to offer free membership to people in your community, if you want to book courts for free at a public facility, there's no charge, there's no transaction fee, not $1, not $4, nothing. Things that there will never be a charge on is creating your account, building your website, being able to collect all the contacts in one area, and using Serve Tennis as a marketing platform. Again, no cost to you or customers. When the transaction fee does come into play is when you as a provider start to charge, whether it's $10 for a team challenge, $50 for a lesson, $75 for a tournament. It's a flat rate of 3.5% plus 50 cents that is charged on that transaction. And that's for things like programming, tournaments, leagues, membership, and court booking. One big change that we feel like customers are going to be really happy about is currently when an event is charged through TennisLink, or excuse me, when a customer is charged for an event through TennisLink, the transaction fees are put on top of the fee. So again, if you charge $50 for a tournament, that transaction fee of 7.5% is added on. So it looks like a tax. And if you promote that your event is $50 and then the customer goes in and pays $57.30, unlike buying something at a store, it doesn't feel right in a lot of cases. And a lot of times you all and we hear, wait, I thought this was only $50. Why is it $57.30? So the difference here in Serve Tennis is that those transaction fees are pulled out of what you're charging. So if you're charging $50, the customer is going to pay $50. And there's no confusion around that. The 3.5% plus 50 cents is pulled out of the 50. And so you would make $47.20, whatever that math comes out to be. So anyway, so that is a big change that we wanted to make sure we reference. But again, from a customer standpoint, makes it very simple and easy. And from a provider standpoint, again, USTA, whether it's Eastern, National, the platform itself is taking way less than what we did before. and is even more competitive with other platforms out in the market. And that includes things like Venmo, PayPal, services like that, Square. The 3.5% plus 50 cents is very, very competitive. Also wanted to reference, because we've only been launched since April, and again, here in a few minutes, you're going to hear from 3 of those providers that have been using it. But there's been a ton of activity. Even though the first tournament ball was hit on January 1st using Serve Tennis, there's been a ton of activity in the system since last April. Now, obviously, since we're all living through it now, when COVID hit and the shutdowns, this all happened, when we launched it, it happened about a month after, the shutdown started. So this activity I'm about to share is all during that same period of time. And these numbers right here are just on the programming, court booking, and membership side of things. So none of these numbers include what's occurred in Serve Tennis since on the tournament side of things. So for us, we're really excited that over 3,500 of you and your colleagues and peers across the country have started to use it. As you can see there, close to 300,000 unique devices, whether it's a phone, tablet, or computer, have gone to Serve Tennis to find things. Over $500,000 has been collected by local providers through Serve Tennis, over 12,000 court bookings, et cetera, et cetera. You can see tons of activity, even though many of you on this session tonight are probably hearing about Serve Tennis for the first time. So what I'm trying to say here is, not only are you going to hear from, 3 of your peers here soon, but you can see over 3,500 across the country have started to use it and are seeing results already. Last thing I wanted to mention is just the training and support, because that's something, again, that we don't want to create something, put it out there and say, okay, good luck, you'll figure it out. So just know that there are a lot of different ways, and I'm not going to go into all the details of what's listed here, but just a lot of different ways that, again, different from how we've done it in the past with Tennis Link with support. We're trying to get out ahead of launching this and making sure that you as a provider feel comfortable before you even get in there. So one example is what we're doing tonight in sharing with you, how, what Serve Tennis is, how great it is, and how it can really help you. Once you get in there, as you can see here on the screen, there's a lot of different ways, whether I want to see a list of how-tos and step-by-steps, or you want to watch a short video to help you out, or you just want to pick up the phone and call a customer care agent. We've got all of those things there to help support you. And the most important, as far as our standpoint, is that bottom right-hand corner, which is, because we're sort of drip feeding the technology out, all the different functionality of Serve Tennis, this really is a partnership. And you all will actually end up being the ones that drive what Serve Tennis becomes. Where, again, a Tennis Link was a USTA product-specific platform. Serve Tennis is going to be your platform. So over time, it's going to be really important that we get your feedback so that it becomes first in class and really helps you grow your business. So it's really easy to get started. Hopefully I've already mentioned that, but as far as the where to go, how do I get started? If you haven't heard of Serve Tennis before, haven't gone to the website, it's simply playtennis.ust.com to get started. Your customers and consumers, as I've already referenced, there are over 11,000 registrations that have already occurred on Serve Tennis. They're going to playtennis.usta.com/programming. And then, as I mentioned, starting January 1st, we had tournaments started through Serve Tennis, and you can see there that website for finding tournaments. So just wanted to make mention of those websites as far as getting started. So hopefully I didn't take up too much time. I didn't see anybody telling me to stop talking. So at this time, this is what we're really excited about is hearing from Kelly, Gordon, Larry on their experiences, their real life, honest experiences with the platform. So with that, Jocelyn, am I continuing here with the 3 of them? Are we good to go?
I think you're good to go. I'll kick it off with the first question, though, just to get them reintroduced to our audience again. And great to see you, Kelly, Larry, and Gordon. Much appreciation for joining. As Matt detailed all those great features, I think you guys have the Serve Tennis experience directly, which I think our audience would really appreciate hearing from you. But just to get a sense of who you are and your role, we wanted to know more about who you are and your tennis business and what programs you do operate. So I'll direct that to Kelly, if you could unmute and just elaborate a little bit on what you do specifically.
Yeah, of course. So I'm the tennis service rep for Delaware, but Delaware is kind of unique, and we run our own grassroots, learn to play, beginner kind of programs. We got a lot of kids in the summertime, and we run the programs at various sites around, mostly northern Delaware, but we go kind of all over the state. So Serve Tennis was really great because we were able to manage all of these different sites almost virtually. And it was a great way to get our kids registered and to know, how many kids that we had at each site, and, manage our programs that way. So that's basically what we do. We have summer programs all summer, various schools, parks and rec facilities. And then we have a program in the winter time called Let's Play. And that's to take the kids that were learning to play all summer. It gives them a chance to actually play matches and little games all winter. So that goes inside. And then in the springtime, we offer junior team tennis. So we'd like to get these kids ready to play junior team tennis. So we have a whole pipeline in Delaware.
That's great. Appreciate that, Kelly. Gordon's question to you, or statement to you, if you don't mind elaborating the work that you do and your use of Serve Tennis.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Gordon Panic, and I'm actually president of Summer Classic Events. Summer Classic Events is it's a 501c3 non-for-profit. Actually, we're a newly minted USTA Community Tennis Association. We incorporated Summer Classic Events as a nonprofit back in 2019 to better help us fund and run tennis events and tournaments at a park called Chestnut Ridge, located in Orchard Park, New York. Since 2016, myself and another tennis enthusiast by the name of Tim Sands have been producing and conducting tennis tournaments in the Western New York area. And we envisioned these tournaments to become one of the biggest and best summer ending tournaments in the Western New York area. So actually, we are actually really achieving that goal by having successfully run the tournament now for 6 years in a row, with draws typically between 180 and 200 participants. But fast forwarding to early pre-pandemic 2020, we were approached by Joe Steger and Len Buffamonte of USTA Eastern with a new tennis in the parks concept to build upon the success we were having with the tournaments at the Ridge. And upon the approval from Erie County Parks Department, we worked out and received a generous grant funding from USTA Eastern and provided some awesome new and unique tennis programming not ever previously done at the Ridge. So needless to say, Tim and I were ecstatic to have been given the opportunity to partner Summer Classic Events with USTA Eastern through Lynn and Joe's help and direction. But with that said, even with the late rollout of the programming due to the COVID dilemma, we were able to get some programming accomplished utilizing the new USTA Serve Tennis platform. And once we set up our organization in Serve Tennis, the coaches, administrators, and we mainly used the programming component for junior and adult programs we offered in the summer of 2020. The programming element was pretty straightforward and quite a bit easier, I thought, than even working through Tennis Link was with tournament setups. So I'm actually anxious to see how the tournament component can help us out in 2021's tournament season. But just to give you an idea of what we did run through on the Serve Tennis platform, in June of 2020, we started with an 8-week singles kind of doubles flex league, which ran from, I think it was late June through early August. And we had around 70 participants in that. It was a great alternative given that the competitive tennis play was so curtailed at the time. We had a 5-week session program with middle school, high school organized play through August, where we had a fairly good amount of participants populating in that program. We did a mini series of 4 adult drill clinics throughout the month of August. We did a 4-week session of 10 and under programming in August, which populated very well, actually. And then we held our own annual Summer Classic Events Chestnut Ridge tournament at the end of August, which brought in, I think it was like over 200 participants. It was one of our best draws ever. And we did a September one-day junior round robin event, which brought in 16 to 20, I think, participants. And finally, we ran a two-day mixed doubles event in September, which had over 20 some participants. So all these events came around, pretty, toward the end of, kind of in the middle of summer, toward the end of summer, as we, picked up the steam in summer programming, ran it all nicely through. Serve Tennis. It worked out very well. The signups, the registrations, setting up Stripe and getting the payment streams went along, quite simply. So, given the difficulty of the summer season with COVID and the prevalence in the mix, I would say we had a remarkably successful pilot of USTA's Tennis in the Park initiative.
Yeah. It certainly sounds very successful, Gordon. That's great. I appreciate that information. I wanted to allow Larry to chime in as well, just to give a brief overview of your role in your tennis business and programs.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I wear a number of hats that we use Serve Tennis for. One is of course, I have my own personal account where when I want to participate in events, but through that personal account, I have access to, I'm an administrator for a number of other organizations that we run programs. We ran a program that with the picture you see there, New Jersey is in the process of a campaign to brand tennis as the healthiest sport in the world. And we've had what we call there as our community or our church ambassadors, and we ran a program this summer for them. And we used Serve Tennis to run the program. And we ran it in a couple of different municipalities. So each municipality used Serve Tennis to run the program. It was very successful. And those same participants, they joined again, and we used Serve Tennis when they went indoors. So that's one way we use Serve Tennis. The second thing is I have a nonprofit organization, Sports for Life. And through Sports for Life, we run tournaments. And in addition to that, I'm on the staff of East Brunswick Racket Club. And through East Brunswick Racket Club, we run tournaments. And we ran our first tournament this weekend. We did a green ball tournament, which was successful. And it was easy to register and easy to organize the players. And also, I'm administrator for New Brunswick Recreation. So through New Brunswick Recreation, we run programs and lessons. And in addition to that, I use Serve Tennis to help run USTA Eastern programming. So Gustavo, who's one of our staff, he puts together these team challenges, events, and we run that using Serve Tennis. So one was scheduled in December, but it got snowed out, so that was moved to March. So we're looking forward to using Serve Tennis for that activity. And in addition to that, I'm also the New Jersey Region Director. So I'm on the board of USTA and I'm New Jersey Region Director. And we run a number of programs. There's a collaborative play event where we give grants to clubs to help put together team challenges amongst the clubs, red, orange, and green. We use Serve Tennis for that. And one of the things we actually, in our New Jersey region, we actually started a Serve Tennis committee because we think it's so powerful. We think the potential of Serve Tennis is so great. We started a committee so that we can maximize in New Jersey, we can maximize the utilization of Serve Tennis. So making sure all of our members are aware of it, and all of our members understand the capabilities, and particularly something we've been pushing for a long time is this idea of shared services. And one of the great things that Serve Tennis offers is the ability to create your own websites. So I've already discontinued my accounts on Bluehost and all these other accounts. I've discontinued them. I'm going to do all my website programming through Serve Tennis, and we're going to promote that through the rest of the region. That's it.
Excellent. No, we know it goes deeper than that, Larry, but we appreciate that overview of how it's helped you. So now what I want to do is we'll circle back with Kelly to start with this question, but we were curious if you were to highlight maybe, let's say, one main thing of Serve Tennis that's really helped you out of the gates, what would that aspect be and why? So what module, what functionality of Serve Tennis do you think has really helped you in your role in delivering tennis?
So yeah, serve tennis has actually been great for our district. We tried some different, we were old school for a long time. We did a lot of paper and checks and, you know, here's the manila folder, put it all in here and we'll collect it at the end of the session. And oftentimes things would get missed or spilled on or lost. And with Serve Tennis, it was great. All of our financials is in one place. We can see who we have coming. And it was great during COVID because we really had to limit the class sizes. And we could put a cap on, you know, how many kids we could take per group. So all those functions together, and then to have the ability to add a waiver onto it, especially during the COVID time. Those were some of the main points that we found that were really beneficial. And we had tried Sign Up Genius and Jot Forms and things like that in the past. But because this is really geared for tennis, it had all the functionality that we needed for our tennis programming. So that was really cool. And then to add on, my other favorite feature is the communication feature. So if we would have a rain out, we could just, you know, click a button and send a message out to all our families saying, hey guys, it's raining. We're gonna have to cancel today. So it was a huge help this summer with all those features.
Great, great. And yeah, just to elaborate on what you just mentioned, because I didn't highlight this during my overview, the contacts module is really smart and robust. In other words, you can pre-populate it with all of your contacts, but as you use Serve Tennis, any transaction that occurs, whether it's a court booking, membership, program, that goes into the contacts module, and those individuals, juniors or adults, are tagged with how they interacted with Serve Tennis. So to Kelly's point, if you want to or need to contact a specific group of people and contacts, you can do that with just a couple of clicks and send out communication. So yeah, we're going to continue to improve that module, but just know that that's already there and being used, like Kelly said. All right, Gordon, over to you. What would you highlight in Serve Tennis for you?
I thought that the ease of setting up individuals and participants was a real nice component of it, where when we had them entered in and we had the options for payment streams, it could either be done through the website, you know, direct link, or if we received cash at the site at the tennis courts, we could easily go in and then just report it as a cash entry. But the ease of registration was one of my key components. You know, once you get your program identified and set up, and then you have your courses listed, and then you have your clients who you're listening to, or you can send emails out to. I mean, that's such a big component of making the whole element of getting people to come and join and populate in these programs. I mean, it's always, and we find this with our tournaments, it's always what you do, and the hard work is done up front in getting people to know about these things that you've got going on, and then to give them the ease of access to, you know, either make the payment online, or, you know, that whole element, because it just makes it easier. I'll just click on, you know, the screen, or get to the link to USTA and just, you know, make the payment through there, and I'm all set, and then I report, you know. So the easier, it just seemed like the easier we made that, the more people were interested in coming along. And, you know, for as late of a start as we had with it, I mean, I keep saying that it came around very nicely for especially the 10 and unders. I mean, I was like tickled at how many, you know, families came in with their 10 and under kids, and we had just worked that out like within a month. It was, you know, it really started to get going in July, and by August we were having 20 kids playing in these events. So, you know, the Serve Tennis element of it was huge.
Great. That's great to hear, Gordon. Thanks. All right, Larry, you're up. What would you say is one of the things that's really helped?
Well, I have a notebook for tournaments. I have a notebook for junior team tennis. I have a notebook for this, a notebook for that, and half the time I can't find them. I have about 150 passwords for 150 different things, and I have to keep that in a file. Okay, so the best thing about Serve Tennis is I have one account and I can access everything. I log in and it says, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this, this, this? And it's just a click of a button away. So that's the thing that's for me, because I'm doing a lot of different things. It's so easy to access and it's so easy to organize, and that is a blessing.
Good. No, that's good to hear. All right, so I'm going to change it up a little bit. We're gonna talk about just two subjects. Well, one subject, but one is pre-COVID and one is post-COVID. So then we'll circle back to Kelly again to start us off. That the question is in regards to you know, what it was like for you pre-COVID compared to today as a tennis provider. So before, you know, February, March of last year, you know, what was it like for you, whether it's Serve Tennis related or not, just in general? How?
Yeah, so I guess pre-COVID, we had, because we're grassroots and very low cost, you know, we would have really big groups of kids, and this year we really had to limit our class sizes. So, you know, for better, for worse, I mean, it was tough because we had to figure out, well, we can add on classes and things like that. So we did some maneuvering that way. But that was the big change. We really had to figure out how we were going to manage our class sizes and make sure to space kids out and make sure everybody was safe. But because we could control the class sizes better with the registration system, I felt like this was a huge blessing, and it came at just the right time, quite honestly. So that was the biggest change.
Good, and that's good to hear. The timing was good.
Yeah.
So what do you say, Gordon, has been the big difference?
Well, I can only say, I mean, this 2020 was our first year for really doing tennis in the parks kind of programming that brought in junior and other adult kind of programming. Prior to that, you know, for the last 5 years prior, we were just running a once a year big tennis tournament at the park. But I can only say that, like, okay, so yes, we did have to, because of park constraints, and you can't have, I guess, more than 50 people or whatever, etc. So we did have to limit the sizes of the clinics that we had, and there was no problem with any of that or any social distancing. So we came prepared with, you know, the masks that people needed and spray and gloves, whatever. So we had all the PPE that you know, we needed to have set up, and that certainly was different from prior years in that respect. But you know, as far as like the tennis tournament went that we held at the end of August, it was bigger than any one we had in previous years. So I know, in respect to tennis playing, outdoor tennis, actually, you know, it was I guess in New York State, it was allowable. So everyone got to doing tennis more than they were doing any other kind of contact sport, and that sort of helped us in a way.
Right.
So.
Right. No, it's good. It's good. Larry, what do you think?
Yeah, well, for me, the thing is, prior to COVID, everything was so predictable. And you knew you had a 16-week season, an 8-week season, a 6-week season. You know you were going to get through the season. You know, through the winter time, there may be a snow day here or there, but everything was fairly predictable. But after COVID, there were so many uncertainties. Do people want to play? Do they want to take the chance? And then the governor. I mean, what are you going to close or what are you going to open? So we had to deal with all of that. But with all of that, another thing that happened with this is that I started receiving a lot more calls because, like I say, we would organize everything and people knew exactly what they were going to do. But more and more people are like, I want to get out. I need to get out. I need to start, you know, playing tennis. I'm cooped up in this house. I need exercise. So as soon as the court started opening, I started getting a lot of calls. So I had to scramble to start, you know, making sure we put programs together for people. So, so that's, you know, so being able to organize that was a good thing.
Very cool. Very cool, guys. I just wanted to draw our attention to a question in the chat to either Kelly, Larry, or Gordon. Do either of you use the court booking feature? And if so, if you want to elaborate on your experience with it.
We don't, for me specifically, we run our programs out of a county park. It's a rather large park with 12 tennis courts. And we have an agreement with the Parks Department to run this programming. So we don't generally have to book courts or anything. They just know that we've given them kind of schedules for when we may be holding clinics and events, and we have certain courts reserved for those times. But I have not used the booking element yet.
I have
Thanks.
not.
Thanks for chiming in. Just wanted to kind of check in the chat to make sure we're not missing any other questions directed to the panelists. It seems like that's the only one. But moving forward with our guests, with the continuation of trying to get a gauge of how it's going for you, I'll kind of kick it back to Larry a little bit, because I know with the multiple hats that you use and have, there's a lot of people on this call who are interested from a community perspective as well as the competitive side of the functionalities and the features of serve tennis. Do you want to address some of your and present to our audience probably some of the key takeaways of your use when you did something like the collaborative series in New Jersey versus the back in the swing play that you did recently?
Well, the best part, it was easy to get people registered. And so that was very helpful to us. And then once we had them registered, all the contact information is there. And so we could, you know, instead of building spreadsheets and all this other kind of thing, we had the contact information right there. So as, you know, as we had new programs, new sessions, we could easily communicate that information so that they can join the new sessions. And it worked the same way for the collaborative play, and it also worked the same way for the Find Your Level, is what we called it, for the health initiative. So the biggest thing is, I think it was easy to get people on board and easy to communicate with them with whatever information we needed to go forward.
Great, appreciate that. And Kelly, same question to you, in a sense that when you shared with us your Let's Play Junior beginner sessions and the use of the system, I think you mentioned how great the use of the contact list was, and for you to email people directly and not have so many papers. But I think our audience would also appreciate your take on how it was to set up your account in Serve Tennis, and to kind of dive into it a little bit more on that front in the experience and trying to get started.
So I started setting it up, gosh, I think it was in June, maybe July, beginning of July. So it's been a while that we've been using it. And I was really excited because I have a background. I was an art director in a previous life. And so I was really excited to see how like clean and the consumer side looks really nice. And then I always call it like the consumer side, so what everybody sees, and then sort of the backside of, you know, the nitty gritty of the program. And once we kind of, you know, figured out how everything worked, it really didn't take long to set it all up, quite honestly. It's pretty intuitive once you kind of realize there's kind of the consumer side and then the back end side. Once you get that straight in your mind, it's pretty intuitive to set everything up and to get kind of the program started from there. So I felt like it was, you know, it was pretty easy to get going.
I
And pretty
appreciate.
exciting to see when it all came together too, because these are really nice looking, you know, the registration, this is our registration page here. And it looks really clean and it's really simple for families to go on and, you know, register for our classes.
Yeah.
So I love it.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I think, you know, with a new system and platform, that always poses to be an intimidating feature of something to sign on, and to know that it's helped you with your program and how seamless it is, and that tool. Gordon, other than Joe twisting your arm to join, Joe Steger to twist your arm to sign up for Serve Tennis, how was your experience with the onboarding and signing on? Oh, and I think we might have actually lost Gordon, so we'll pause on that question for Gordon and just circle back to Kelly and Larry to thank them again. I wanted to take the time to also address some of the questions in the chat, open it up a bit more to Larry and Kelly directly. I know that there's a number of people on that really wanted to have this opportunity to hear from the perspective of Serve Tennis users in real time. So this would be a great opportunity.
Yep, and I'll start by saying a great question came in, and I have an answer for it, but I'd rather hear Kelly and Larry give their take. You know, right now, a lot of people on this session are using other systems, and they may be using them for upwards of 5 to 10 years, and they may be using 3 or 4 systems to help support their business or their facility or organization. So the question to you is, you know, outside of someone twisting your arm, or I know Kelly, you work for USTA, you know, how and why did you make the decision to start using Serve Tennis, whether it was just one of the functions, or did you go just all in all at once? You know, what was the process for you?
Well, I can start. I actually I pretty much jumped all in, because we didn't have anything that was really working well for us. And once I saw the possibilities of this, I was really excited to have something. And, you know, I was willing to try it. I knew we were going to have smaller classes this year, given the COVID limitations that we had. So I figured this would be a good time to try it. And yeah, I was really happy with the results. It's been great. It's really kept us organized, and our little team, we programming, we all have access to the site, and we can all see, you know, how many people we have registered in each group. So that's been great.
To be honest, for me, you know, I'm on the board and I'm very, very active. So I get all the, and I go to the conferences and everything. So I get all the information. So from the beginning, when I heard about Serve Tennis and I heard about how it was developing and how the plans they had and how robust it was going to be, it wasn't even a question whether or not I was going to use it. So as soon as it became, I was in the beta person when it first came out. So I was sold on it, and I know this system was developed by tennis people, and for you know, the average person. So I was all in it, and you know, so it wasn't a question. I just jumped right in it as soon as it was available.
Great. No, and I'm glad you said it that way, Larry, because yeah, a couple of years ago you were one of the first to raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to be a part of the conversation, part of the build, and I'll be one of the first to use it. And you're living proof, along with hundreds of others, that we are listening to providers and will continue to listen to providers. Again, we don't want this to be a USTA platform focused on USTA programming. It'll be there, it'll live there, and we'll promote it for you. But it's really for Larry and Kelly and you all. Two more things I wanted to add, specific to if you're using 3 to 4, you know, legacy products to deliver tennis in your communities. I think what Larry and Kelly said is important. Even though they both kind of went all in, you can play around with Serve Tennis for free. You can create your account, create your website. You can try to start mirroring what you're doing now, free of cost. I mean, yes, it might take you a little time, and it may, maybe annoying to try to keep up two systems. But the point being is, you can still have the systems you have, and not go all out on those and go all in on Serve Tennis. You can slowly trickle over, if you like what you see and it has the functionality that you need. I think that's one really important, point I wanted to make. Jocelyn, if it's okay, if we have time, I can take a couple more of the questions that were in the chat. I'll just kind of read through them.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Great.
appreciate that.
Yep. So a couple of questions came in about tournaments, and I know we haven't spoken yet at all really about tournaments. I didn't want to ignore those questions coming in. I think Kathy did a great job. I saw some of her answers in the Q&A, and we had a couple come in through the chat. Generally speaking about tournaments, no question that the first 2 weekends, especially of January, were tough. There were a lot of bugs in the system, a lot of issues, very simple things, score entry, how players moved in the draw, what the public site looked like to the consumer. We're the first to admit that there were problems and there were issues. Since then, as Kathy, I think, answered a couple of those questions with, since then, the third and fourth weekends have gone a whole lot better. Doesn't mean that we're close to it being where it should be, but do know that we're tracking everything. We've got a team on it every day working on it. For instance, we know that there are 327 tournament directors that have already used Serve Tennis, and a couple of which are here, right now, that have had some questions and quite a few issues. So I know sorry doesn't help, and that doesn't help improve the system, but do know that, we're tracking every tournament director that sends in questions, complaints. Going into our fifth weekend this weekend, we have 199 tournaments, 124 tournament directors running those 199 events, over 6,000 registrations. So as shutdowns start to be lifted, there's a lot more tournaments going on, a lot more players playing in those tournaments. So it's more important than ever that we get the tournament space right and we continue to improve it. Some of the things that we've already improved, and again, Kathy answered this already in the Q&A, but the seeing phone numbers and emails, the visibility for tournament directors to see those and use those, that's coming this week. So that's a big one that we had to make sure legally we could start sharing a lot of that stuff. We checked those boxes, and we're getting that into the tournament desk of Serve Tennis for you all to see those emails and phone numbers. So that hopefully will relieve some of the pain of not being able to contact easily your customers. So that's one big one. We cleaned up a lot, if not all, of the score entry issues. It's a new way of entering scores. So those of you, again, who have already run tournaments, it's a different way of entering scores than in TDM, but we feel like once you get the hang of it, it'll be a lot quicker. We do realize there are still a couple of edge cases, we like to say, of players not feeding into the back draws properly. One of the big issues right now is splitting draws, and I know I'm kind of getting in the weeds, but I just wanted to be very open and honest with those of you who have run a tournament or will run a tournament, that there are some things that we're tracking and working on to improve in the next week or two. And again, we not have a laundry list because we've really narrowed it down just a handful of things, but do know that we're taking it very seriously. And short of an apology, we do hope that your experience with the tournament piece of it just continues to get better and better. But having said all that, and those of you that don't run tournaments, just know that everything else we've talked about tonight is, in our opinion, and those like Larry, Kelly, and Gordon have attested to, is really positive, has really helped the programming side, the court booking side, marketing yourself. So don't let the tournament talk taint you. Just put it that way. But do know that, again, we're taking it very seriously. So just wanted to respond to the tournament issues.
So Matt, I get some of those comments about the tournaments also. And what I tell people is this is a monumental shift. And if you remember when Obamacare first came out, there was a mini disaster, right? As far as the web service went, but now it's running much more smoothly. And me personally, whenever the iPhone has a new release, a new major release, I am never one of the first ones to update it. I wait until a few weeks gone by and they fix the bugs. But the major difference is I don't have any input into that. I don't have any input into Obamacare. I don't have any input into iPhone. So what me as a tennis customer, I have a lot of potential input into how, you know, some things that Serve Tennis may be able to do. So when you interact with customer care, if you have an idea that's a really good idea that can really help you and it can help a lot of other people, then you should bring that idea, you should bring that comment to Serve Tennis, because a year from now, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna solve a lot of the issues that people had in the past, and it'll be a really good, robust system.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Larry. Okay, so I did want to touch on maybe just one more thing. A couple questions that have come in about the pricing, and apologies, I wasn't clear at the beginning, because we really do want to make sure that the pricing makes sense and it's easy to understand. So if you're doing anything in Serve Tennis, whether it's marketing a program, offering membership court booking, creating your website, offering, you know, clinics or lessons, if there's no charge to a customer transacting with the system, there's no transaction fees. So the 3.5% plus 50 cents that I referenced is only if there's a fee that you're charging. So if you $50 for a lesson, $75 for a tournament, you know, $25 for, you know, a drop in on Tuesday nights. If you're charging for whatever you're offering, then the 3.5% plus 50 cents on each of those transactions is when that comes into play. Otherwise, you know, like I said, as far as getting off any systems you're on now and starting to use Serve Tennis, you can start to do that now without having to get off your systems, because there's no charge to you. Nothing's going to hit your books. It's just the time that it's going to take to get used to a new system, like Larry, Kelly, and Gordon have said. But you can start to play with it now and build it out before you really move your business over to it. And I think that's one of the really bright spots about it. So Jocelyn, has anything else come in or anything else you'd like us to cover?
Just checking now. I think for the most part, and Kathy Myers, who's on, thanks again for really handling the Q&A and typing in the answers. In the chat, I did leave my email in there. And Matt, if you could slide over to the contact sheet that's in the slide. That is our team. We can't do it just one single person handily, but we're here to support you guys. In terms of what's next, Matt really kind of summarized it really well in terms of you can slowly trickle in and using the system. If you're using something already that you like, or that you're just curious about Serve Tennis after tonight's session, connect with one of us. We'll be happy to guide you through the onboarding system and just telling you more about the features. This evening has been a really great session, because as we all know, using a new system and getting acclimated with a new system and really identifying with how it could help you in your businesses and for tennis is important. And it was very informative, and I have to thank Matt Barnhart for leading us with the information, Kathy Myers for, of course, handling the chat, and our great panelists who have dove right in and using the system, Larry Dillon, Kelly Rosero, and Gordon Panic. So I appreciate your time this evening, and like I said, reach out to us. And in the final slide, actually, if you kind of get down to that final slide, we do have that networking chat in our platform. You can just jump into that and create conversations with anybody who has signed on. And then, of course, we want to do a call out to our award ceremony that's happening Friday, January 29th at 6:15. So it'll be great to see you guys there as well. All right, well, thanks again for joining. And thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Everyone.
Thank you.